First of all, this book is wild. The way that I'm just freely giving out this information. This man is literally psychotic. This might be controversial. There was crazy drama. Not once did I read a single book that was assigned to me. If you know me, you'll know that I haven't always been the biggest fan of reading. Actually, one of my earliest memories is from kindergarten, where during reading time, I would specifically pick a picture book every single day and pretend to read it and hope that nobody can notice that I wasn't actually reading it. I was also never the strongest reader. I was one of those kids who would get pulled out of class for special help. If you know, you know. It's not like I have a learning disability or anything. I was just stubborn. Like, why would I read something myself when somebody could just tell me what happened? Like, duh. So I basically avoided reading at all costs, and from elementary school to high school, not once did I read a single book that was assigned to me. The way that I'm just freely giving out this information is wild. But to get by, I always had my systems. I would watch video recaps, ask my friends what happened, I would watch a movie if possible, and Spark Notes. Girl, she really carried me through. Somehow I always did fine. I had high honors in high school and a 4.0 in college. So this left me wondering, did I really miss out on this universal experience by not reading the classics of American education? Let's find out. These are the 4 books that I'll be reading that I actually was assigned in school, and I picked them up from the library today. I wasn't about to buy them because I know I'm only gonna read them once. Hey, but maybe they're bangers, I don't know yet. But this is what we got. We got The Outsiders, The Giver, To Kill a Mockingbird, and The Great Gatsby. I definitely remember reading more books in school, obviously, like Romeo and Juliet, The Importance of Being Earnest, Of Mice and Men. Gosh, that one's weird. But low-key, I don't want to read them because they sound boring. And I'm not about to read Shakespeare because I can barely read regular English, so yeah, we're not gonna do that. And so this video isn't just a montage of me reading. I'll also be rating them in a few categories. First is readability. Was it easy to follow and did it keep my attention? Very important. Age relevance. Would this have actually resonated with me at the age that it was assigned? Educational value. Did I actually learn something from reading this? And my overarching question, did I miss out by not reading this in school? Let's go. Hey. Although it probably seems like no time has passed, it has actually been about 20 days and I have officially read all 4 books. And we're gonna start with the first book that I read, and that is The Outsiders. I was supposed to read this book in 7th grade.
Hey, I have a tip for you. Push the poop down.
With what?
Your hand.
My main memories surrounding it is that after we read the book, we got to watch the movie in class, and the only thing I can remember about the movie is that Rob Lowe's butt is in it. So yeah, that's about it. But this book was written by S.E. Hilton and published in 1967, and the author actually wrote it as a teenager, drawing from her own experiences in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The book explores themes of class conflict, identity, family, and loss of innocence through the story of Ponyboy Curtis, a greaser in the 1960s, and his rivalries with the Sox. Wait, no, it's the Socias. I kept on saying socks as I was reading it, and now I can't stop. But now onto my thoughts, and I have plenty of them. First, this book is pretty descriptive. Every single character gets a full physical description down to what their build is like, if they're dumb or not, how much grease they put in their hair, hence why they're called the greasers. And then on top of that, you also get a background of their criminal record, their trauma, why they are the way that they are because of their trauma. I found myself flipping back between pages to figure out who is who again, because not gonna lie, I disassociate when things are described in too much detail. So I also spent a large amount of time looking at the front cover, trying to figure out who is who on it, and from what I've figured out is that this has to be Ponyboy, and I have no clue for the rest of them. And then speaking of Ponyboy, let's talk about these names, because they're very original. We have, again, Ponyboy, we have Soda Pop, we have Dally and Dairy. I kept mixing those 2 up, and there's also 2-Bit Matthews. I was really trying to read these books seriously, and then I kept getting to the name Ponyboy, and I was like, okay. And then last, let's talk about the ending. When I read it the first time, I had no clue what it meant. I didn't realize that the whole book is Ponyboy writing his essay for his English paper. To be honest, I feel like that says more about my reading comprehension than the author, so. But enough of that, let's get on to the rating. First we have readability. Was it easy to follow and did it keep my attention? And yeah, it's a pretty simple read. I read it in about 3 days. I did have my moments where I had to like reread descriptions and things like that, like I said before, but it did keep my attention and I wasn't bored at all. So for readability, I'm giving it 4 stars. Then age relevance. Would this have actually resonated with me at the age I was assigned to read it? And even though I haven't lived through the 1960s or been in a gang, a lot of what this book explores still feels pretty relatable, especially at the middle school age when you're trying to really figure out who you are. So for age relevance, I am giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next is educational value. Did I actually learn anything from this? I wouldn't say I learned something in like a super academic way, but like it puts into perspective of what the time might have been, especially since the author wrote it from her own experiences. So for educational value, I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars. And then lastly, this is my big overarching question, the whole question that this video is based around. Did I miss out by not reading this in school? I don't really think I missed out, to be honest. I feel like I was still able to understand like the cultural significance and lessons behind this book without reading the book. There wasn't something like so profound that like changed my perspective as an adult, so there's no way that it would have when I was a 7th grader. So yeah, I don't think I missed out, unfortunately. Okay, on to the next book. Let's see if I can do like a fun like transition here. Actually, I probably shouldn't. I was about to start with this. This is a library book. Did that work? Okay, next we're on to The Giver. I was actually the most excited to read this book because I actually love dystopian novels. I have my Hunger Games books right there, love them. But I was supposed to read this book in 8th grade. From what I remember, we got quizzes regularly and they were like pop quizzes, so you never knew. And so basically, you know, my normal strategy was never reading the book, so I have such a strong memory of just absolutely doing terrible. And this was a time in my life where I did not care about grades. So my SparkNotes skills have definitely gotten better since then. But this book was written by Lois Lowry and was published in 1993. It is a young adult dystopian novel exploring themes of conformity versus individuality, the importance of memory, the nature of choice, and the balance of pain versus pleasure. The main character is a boy named Jonas, and he is selected for a unique yet burdensome role of receiver of memory. And it's actually the first book of a series of 4, which I had no clue there's more. Now into my thoughts about the book. First of all, I really like how the world building was done in this book compared to the other 3 books that I read. I found it super interesting how the book doesn't fully explain how the society works. There isn't like this big overarching introduction paragraph. You just kind of have to figure out things as Jonas is figuring them out. And I actually think that made the book like way more compelling because there was always like a mystery or like a sense of unease because you just like didn't understand everything entirely. And then I have to mention this because this is like a huge thing that I noticed while reading, but there are so many biblical themes in this book, whether they're intentional or not. I think that the giver represents a Christian and Jonas is an unbeliever turned believer. And instead of the giver giving him memories, I think it has like the giver giving Jonas the gospel, which has now given Jonas meaning, and he's able to like actually see and understand for the first time, just as receiving the gospel does to us. And in my TED Talk. Now let's talk about my ratings. Again, first is readability. Was this easy to follow and did it keep my attention? And yes, again, this was a very simple read, probably more simple than The Outsiders was, just because this is like more modern language. But genuinely, I was like locked in the entire time I was reading this book. Like out of all of them, I probably was the most focused and most intrigued reading this book. So for readability, I am giving it 5 out of 5 stars. And then for age relevance, would this have actually resonated with me at the age that I was assigned to read it? Again, like even though I wasn't facing like such extreme moral dilemmas, I think it really works for the age that I was assigned to read it. Not gonna lie, I think some of the more like philosophical, ethical questions probably would have gone over my head growing up, but now reading it as a 23-year-old, I can actually appreciate it again. So for age relevance, I am giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. And then next is educational value. Did I actually learn anything from this? And again, like The Outsiders, I don't think that I learned something in like a way that it's like, I don't know, like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. But it does put moral dilemmas into practice and helps you with like your critical thinking skills. So I'm gonna go in the same direction that I went with The Outsiders by giving the educational value of this book 3 out of 5 stars. And then on to my overarching question, did I miss out by not reading this in school? And you're gonna be surprised, I think yes, I think I actually did miss out. I don't think I missed out because I like lacked these critical thinking skills that you kind of learn from this book, but I think this book in general would have been right up my alley, so it's a yes. And next we're on to Kill a Mockingbird. We have this fat book. This book is double the word count compared to the other books. And I'm probably the least excited to read this book, to be honest, which is not the best way to like introduce a book, but we're gonna try and power through it. But from what I remember from reading this book in school is that when we were in this unit, I had Grandparents' Day and my grandpa was with me. He told me all these fond memories that he had of the book, and the next year I gave him a DVD of To Kill a Mockingbird for Christmas, and I have really fond memories of that. But To Kill a Mockingbird was published in 1960 by Harper Lee and is loosely based on Lee's own experiences during his childhood. It's told from the perspective of Scout Finch, a young girl growing up in a small town in Alabama during the Great Depression. It explores themes of racial prejudice, loss of innocence, courage, and social class hypocrisy. Now onto my thoughts, and gosh, where do I start? Okay, just kidding. I'm gonna be positive. This one was really hard for me to get through. First of all, just the genre in general is not something that I usually lean towards, so that kind of is setting this book back already. And this book probably took me the longest to get invested in. It's like a slower slice of life storytelling style, which I can appreciate now that I've read the whole thing, but definitely the whole time I was reading it, I was waiting for like the main thing to happen. But instead we got like 15 straight pages describing what the summer in Alabama is like. But honestly, I didn't start getting invested in this book until like chapter 18, which is wild because like this is chapter 18 in the book, and that's kind of when like the court scene is happening. The only thing that kept me going really was like Boo Radley in the first half of the book. But I do think that the slow build does kind of work in the book's favor because you kind of get to see the main characters mature and change their perspective. Even though the pacing wasn't for me, I definitely can tell what the author was trying to do, so not fully trying to hate on it. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on to the rating. First, we have, again, readability. Was it easy to follow and did it keep my attention? And right off the bat, since this book is written in the Great Depression, it is a little bit more challenging to read. The language is different from what we normally use. The words and slang, like y'all, reckon, ain't, all those fun things. So that definitely adds a little bit of difficulty. And then also I had a hard time believing that these kids like thought so deeply. Like I was not thinking that hard at 7 years old, but you do you, girl. So this might be controversial, very sorry. For readability, I'm giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. And guys, I'm gonna be so truthful here. I listened to an audiobook for most of this, and that was the only way that I could get through it. But my favorite thing about reading this book is probably the comments that I read on Spotify. Here are some of them. Reading this is torture. Actually, half decent book. 7 out of 10. I can't read for it though. Bro, the book gets good, but it takes a while to get interesting. I don't like this book, gang. I like this book, gang. OMG, thank you. I'm cooked. I'm 8 chapters behind in class. Dude, this book sucks. Saved my high school career. And after reading these comments, I was like, wow. I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel like I found my people. Now onto age relevance. Would this have actually resonated with me at the age that I was assigned to read it? And probably only partially. At 14, I probably would have appreciated the importance of the book, but the actual experience of reading it probably would have disinterested me. Yes, I do think that you learn valuable lessons in this book and it's a conversation starter, but since I only connected to really some parts of the book, I don't think my attention would have been there the whole time. Also, the characters were a bit younger than me for the vast majority of this book, so I also don't think I would connect in that sense. So I'm giving age relevance a 3 out of 5. And then we have educational value. Did I actually learn anything from this? In my opinion, here is kind of similar to what I thought for The Outsiders. I didn't learn in a super academic way, but again, it gives you perspective of like what it was like in the 1930s during the Great Depression. So like the others, I'm giving educational value a 3 out of 5. And then my overarching question, did I miss out by not reading this in school? And I'm very confident in saying that no, I don't think I missed out by not reading this in school. And I think I've proved my point. Anyway, done with her. Now we're on to The Great Gatsby. I was supposed to read this book my junior year of high school. And what I remember from this is that we didn't have enough time to watch the full movie in school, so our teacher had us vote on what scene we wanted to watch. And of course my class picked Myrtle getting hit by the car as the scene that we watched in class. So yeah, The Great Gatsby was written by F. Scott Fitzgerald in 1925, and it follows the tragic story of Jay Gatsby and his obsessive pursuit of Daisy Buchanan through the eyes of the narrator Nick Carraway. It's set in the Jazz Age, and it explores the illusion of the American dream, the superficiality of wealth, and delves into class and materialism. Now into my thoughts about the book. First of all, this book is wild. There was crazy drama. Let me read some examples that I pulled from the book. First, we have Daisy cheating on her husband Tom with Gatsby, Tom cheating on Daisy with a lady named Myrtle, Daisy accidentally killing Myrtle with Gatsby's car, Gatsby taking the blame because he is down so catastrophically bad, Wilson, Myrtle's husband, then shooting Gatsby, and then Gatsby dying alone after he spent his entire life trying to impress people. How depressing. I remember genuinely feeling bad for Gatsby the first time I read the book because I was like, oh, he's just this misunderstood, hopeless romantic. But no, this man is literally psychotic and a manipulator. Anyway, again, I'm bringing up religious symbolism because I love that stuff. And in this book, it's kind of pointed out and we see very clear symbolism between God and then the billboard with the eyes of T.J. Ecclesburg. And it just represents God watching over them. And time again, the Bible tells us that we cannot serve both God and money. And I think this book is just a huge example because money is never going to fulfill you the way that Jesus Christ can. Now we're on to the very last rating, and of course we first have our readability. Was it easy to follow and did it keep my attention? And my thoughts are pretty similar to what I had for To Kill a Mockingbird. The Great Gatsby is set in the 1920s, so it's definitely a little bit more challenging to read just because they had a different way of speaking. But it's almost on the opposite side of the spectrum from To Kill a Mockingbird because Mockingbird has this very southern style way of speaking versus The Great Gatsby is like very posh. So yeah, I definitely did not understand all the words in this book. Shocker. And for that reason, I am giving readability a 3 out of 5 stars. Then onto age relevance. Would this have actually resonated with me at the age that I was assigned to read it? And I actually think that some parts of this book would have actually resonated with me, mostly the parts about the American dream and status. And since I was in my junior year when I was supposed to read this, I definitely was in that like headspace of thinking about what my future was going to be, what college I was going to go to, what success meant to me. And so this book does a really great job of showing the repercussions of obsessing over all that stuff. So for that reason, I am giving age relevance 4 out of 5 stars. Then for educational value, did I actually learn anything from this? And again, it's kind of like the same as the rest of them. And I kind of mentioned what I learned in age relevance, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But I don't think in this educational value section I would have given a book like 5 out of 5 stars unless I was like reading like an actual textbook. So again, like the others, I am giving educational value 3 out of 5 stars. And then last but not least, we have the overarching question, did I miss out by not reading this book in school? And drum roll please everyone, here we go. No! do. But here is my overall ranking. You can pause it to see all of them all together. You can see that To Kill a Mockingbird had the least stars with 8 overall. I don't think there's any surprise in that. And then The Giver had the most with 12 stars overall. And it also was the only book that I said that I maybe missed out on by not reading in school. But I think I can basically say that overall, I do not think that I missed out by not reading these books, these classics of American education, which unfortunately I think that means that I voluntarily assigned myself homework as an adult. And to finish it off, make sure you guys like the video and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time. I probably won't be reading a book though.